things Pelicans. You're now tuned into the Pelican Post-Game Report. Much love to the fam. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and feel free to join the flock, man, through subscription. Hit the subscribe button, man, and share the show on your social media feed with the rest of the diehard Pelicans across the world, man. This one, critical season on deck for the Pelicans. We delve in this episode, man. We delve into an article by Christian Clark of NOLA.com, the New Orleans. Well, it used to be the Times-Picayune, NOLA.com. I figure they still call themselves that, but he wrote a very interesting piece. Year 5 of Zion and Ingram on deck, Pelicans appeared set to enter critical season without major changes. So a lot of people have been critical of Christian Clark and his and what he's been saying about the Pelicans. I respect, commentary that's opposite. Sometimes it gives you some perspective. So I'm not going to go over this entire article because it's pretty lengthy, but he does make some points, and we'll kind of cover this on the episode of Pelican Post-Game Report. Does it feel like a critical season for you guys? A lot of the faithful out there saying, hell yeah, it's a critical season. Hell, we didn't even make the playoffs last year, Q. What you talking about? Well, yeah, we got roasted on the play-in, man, by a team we should have beat. So anyway, with that being said, let's delve into this one right here. And like I said, we're going to give Christian Clark. At some point, I'll have Christian Clark. I'll reach out to him and bring him on the show so he can kind of break down some of the stuff. But he starts off the article. He talks about the whole situation with dealing with Scoot Henderson. And, of course, we know what happened with Scoot Henderson in the Summer League. And the fact that the Pelicans made an inquiry about his, we covered this ad nauseum, man, because we had to, because it was so much stuff out there, people just doing this stuff. But he covers that, and the fact that how the Pelicans were enamored with Henderson's professional approach, his athleticism. Pelicans never put a package on the table that would get him the number 2 overall R3 slots, which would have put them in position to select Henderson. A deal for Henderson would have allowed the Pelicans to reset after 4 mostly frustrating years. That means the Pelicans will return next season with a roster nearly identical to the one that failed to make the playoffs last spring. So he has more of a cynical approach or thinking process on the team. Now, as it currently stands, and I'm going to kind of go through it as we move forward, the Pelicans are not going to take this current roster into the season. There are several players on the Pelican squad currently that they're actively trying to trade. So it might take a while for the Pelicans to find the right package, but we shall see how it shakes. So here is Mr. Clark's thought. Pelicans have talent. Whether they can congeal into a team that wins remains to be seen. Pelicans have never finished higher than 9th place in Executive Vice President David Griffin's 4 years at the helm. Pelicans ownership extended Griffin's contract in the spring, but in recent weeks, team president David Lauscha has expressed frustration at the team's lack of progress, sources told Times-Picayune. Now, see, that is interesting because David Lauscha is the guy above David Griffin. Matter of fact, he's the guy that's above, I want to say, Lauscha is above Mickey Loomis on the Saints side. He is the guy that sits at the top. If you're a big business, multi-million-dollar deal, you go and talk to him about working something with the Pelicans. That's the man you talk to. It's like the right hand to the throne. What Gil Benson is, that's the hierarchy. There's none higher, than Lauscha in terms of that. But they say he expressed frustration at the team's lack of progress over recent weeks, which means this was a current thing that happened. Now, is this the case? Sources told Time-Picayune. So much of the Pelicans' success hinges on one of the NBA's most unreliable players, Zion Williamson, has averaged 28.5 games per season since he was chosen in number 1 in 2019. The Pelicans went 17-12 when Williamson played, 25-28 when he sat. They were 3rd place in the Western Conference when he injured his hamstring in the June 2nd game in Philly. Never came back. Brandon Ingram was supposed to carry the baton after Williamson went down, but he was also in street clothes. Ingram missed 29 consecutive games with an injury the Pelicans described as a toe bruise. The Times-Picayune reported on January 16th that Ingram's extended absence caused frustration in the Pelicans organization. Behind closed doors, prominent Voices within the organization began to openly question Ingram's toughness, sources told Time-Picayune. Now, let's unpack that for a second. We'll keep going off into the article because he makes some valid points. We understand that during a period of time, like when players get hurt, now, no doubt about it, frustration was definitely in the organization because frustration was with us. We were frustrated. We were lighting their ass up in the comment section. And any chance that we get when we make these shows, and best believe these people listen because that's how they get the feedback. They have teams of people that listen to broadcasts like this one, and they get legitimate feedback. Say, hey, this guy right here, we can actually get something from him because they're not just spitting and spewing a bunch of hatred toward the team. They're actually doling out some constructive criticism. You can see they emotionally a little teased and pissed because the team's not winning. But at the end of the day, how does that play? So the toughness of Ingram, it was considered a toe bruise. 29 consecutive days that he said. The issue is the frustration. Now, with that being said, we understand. I think there were frustration, but talking about questioning, and this is not really anything new because this was said early in the season that the organization was saying, people were saying that he was cleared to play, and it was him who didn't want to play. And I just find that to a degree kind of difficult to believe at times, knowing that when you hear a guy like Zion Williamson, what he said on the Gil's Arena show, the Las Vegas special that we have on the channel, he talked about how much he loved basketball and that he wanted to be out there hooping. His words, right? Same thing with Brandon Ingram. These guys love basketball. Sometimes you got to hold them back for their own good because they're not truly healthy. So for somebody to say that Ingram didn't want to play because whatever the situation was, for guys like Ingram, who we know love the ball, and Zion Williamson, who loves the ball, for them to, to make at Ingram, that's, I got to think about that. I have to critically roll that around in my head to think about it. But also, let's carry on because it gets interesting. Williamson is owed $34 million next season, while Ingram will make almost $34 million. It's possible the Pelicans go into next season with a different starting center. Very good, Valanciunas, but the chances the duo, whom some in the Pelicans family base have dubbed as Run DMP, is unlikely broken up. All right, the Pelicans are instead banking on changes to their medical and coaching staffs to push them forward. This is the biggest sticking point. This is something that I've tried to the best of my ability to pinpoint how important this is. It is the biggest thing right here, and credit to him for even mentioning this, because a lot of these media operations, I don't know how they have research departments and they just totally omit this when they talk about the Pelicans and Zion Williamson. Like they put all of that on Zion's health. Like, oh, it's him. He's eating bad. Or he just don't want to work out. He don't want to work on an underlay, a jump shot, or a fall, or whatever the hell the guy said. It's to a degree. A lot of it's on the player, but you absolve the team of any, like the team that have any power to force this guy to do. It's just ridiculous. But this, at least he mentions this much. As the Times-Picayune first reported in May, Vice President of Player Care and Performance, Aaron Nelson, was ousted in a department restructuring. Nelson's relationship with Williamson was fractured, but several other players found him difficult to work with. This is true. And they said because of his non-conforming stance on, timelines and all this kind of stuff. Nelson had a strong reputation before arriving in New Orleans. The first line in his biography in the team's media guide read that he was among the most well-regarded head athletic trainers in all of professional sports. He won an award on that. He was named one of the top ones. And I was really, the first move David Griffin did after they gave him the reins was hiring Aaron Nelson. He knew that the Pelicans needed to kind of upgrade that health staff. But several years later, we're still suffering from having an inadequate situation here. It is really insane. So in June, the Pelicans added James Borrego, an assistant head coach, a move that has generated enthusiasm within the organization. Now, Borrego has a strong working relationship with Coach Willie and a track record of getting his teams to play a fast-paced, efficient style of offense. He's expected to have more of a prominent role in tweaking the Pelicans' offense, which finished a disappointing 20th in points scored per 100 possessions last year. More than anything else, the Pelicans need a strong season from Williamson. The 23-year-old has been unable to realize his immense potential because of injuries, but also factors within his control, like preparedness and work ethic. We do have, and this is what CJ McCollum said, we have to do what we need to do off the court in terms of preparation, right? He said in April when the Pelicans were eliminated, in terms of getting treatment, in terms of getting the right type of sleep, the right hydration, the right diet, everything has to matter to us. This is a job that is performance-driven job. It is obvious McCollum was talking about Williamson, who has the talent to be a face of the NBA franchise, but so far has not displayed the request, focus, or drive. Williamson's poor diet has been a major concern since he's turned pro, so he has a circle of people in place around him. Indeed, a lot of it is, and like I said, the dynamic in between the injury situation with Zion Williamson and the Pelicans, 50-50, no doubt about it. Zion Williamson needs to eat better. He needs to do, kind of work on his regiment there, no doubt about it. But the Pelicans firing or demoting, because there's no information right now that said the Pelicans fired the man. He's still a part of the organization. He's just not at top of the performance and health department anymore. So if they will, I don't know what the move is, but I'm paying attention to that because that is a big move moving forward into the season. They have to find the right person to fix this injury situation. And, they have to find the right character. And that is important because the Pelicans have been suffering. Now, see, and another thing to make mention of, it's not just Zion Williamson who's having issues with injuries. You mentioned Brandon Ingram there. And as I said before, the Pelicans could have done something. They didn't have to sit there and watch these players just sit out. The Pelicans could have made some moves. Now, they did trade for, what's your guy name who went to the Miami Dolphins? Jay Rich. They traded for Richardson. They brought him here, eventually getting rid of Devontae Graham and brought Richardson in, who helped us, during the season to a degree. The Pelicans could have did a little bit more than that. They could have really went into free agency and find cheap veterans and people to plug in to help the Pelicans play. They could have did something. They could have did more than one trade. They could have moved somebody and maybe, but they could have done something to kind of help the team out during the process when we were dealing with injuries. They just didn't have to sit there and allow or just, put all of this extra work on other guys. You could have delved into the bench a little bit more, gave guys who should have had more minutes like a KLJ to see what he can do. Here, a lot of stuff could have been done in the afterthought. So, anyway, in April, veteran Garrett Temple was asked what advice he would give Williamson. Taking care of your body, Temple said, eating as well as you can, exercise exactly how you should, getting people around you, your physical therapist, and all of your people in line during the offseason, just being consistent. Anderson's desire to maximize his greatness was one of the reasons why the Pelicans liked him so much. The Pelicans explored the idea of reshaping their team to get him. Nothing came of it. Instead, the Pelicans will keep pushing forward. But Williamson and Ingram and hope those two can help take a desperately needed step. So the avocation, and Christian, you can hit me up on Twitter or here and let me know if I'm interpreting your article correctly. But based on what I'm getting from this article is that you were more in favor of the Scoot Henderson trade. But based on what I know and what a lot of information that was out on it was the Pelicans weren't trying to trade Zion Williamson. Scoot Henderson was something the Pelicans, it was an inquiry for both to the Trailblazers and the Hornets to pair him with Zion and BI. Zion and BI was never on the trade block. That just came up because Zion Williamson was going through all that stuff with those women. And people started clopping that together and saying, see, he got the injuries, he's not playing, and he's screwing around off the court. That's the reason why they're going to trade him. No, they're not going to trade Zion Williamson. And I was right on that, and we were right on that. The flock was right on it. They wasn't going to trade Zion Williamson for Scoot Henderson. And I keep telling people the main reason why the Pelicans understand Zion Williamson, when he plays, he's a blockbuster. He's a draw. He commands NBA attention that brings money to the team. And as a small market team, as we're called, we need major names like a Zion Williamson when he plays to really step up and show out. So when he plays, he dominates. The Pelicans win games when Zion Williamson plays. When BI and Zion play together, odds are the Pelicans are going to win some games. The issue is not indicative and totally attached to Zion Williamson. It is not. There are other people around Zion that are getting hurt. They just mentioned two of them in this article, which was Zion and Brandon Ingram missed 20-something games. What about the rest of the guys that were banged up? C.J. McCollum was banged up during the season, still played. Larry Nance was banged up for most of the season because he was played against, Larry was 6'7", guarding 6'9", 6'10", 6'11" centers. Come on, man. Who can deal with that type of nonsense? Then you had Jose Alvarado. He was banged up. Dyson Daniels was banged up. And a lot of these players didn't come back when they were supposed to come back. So what I'm saying is the Pelicans' biggest move to do for the season was simply they don't really need major change. They really don't. In terms of reshaping the roster of the team. Now, you've seen they were trying to trade Valanciunas to get, they were interested in Allen, the center. So you can see what they were trying to do in that regard because they couldn't come to an agreement on the extension with Valanciunas. So the only move is to put him on the trade block and trade him. And, of course, they got Garrett Temple out of here. They ultimately looked at attempting to trade KLJ. They refused to pay Jackson Hayes. He's gone. So the Pelicans are making moves. They pick up Jordan Hawkins, bring him to the team. They re-up and give a 3-year deal to E.J. Liddell to help out. They bring back Najee Marshall. The Pelicans are not that far off. Dyson Daniels, making improvement. Trey Murphy's getting better. They're not that far off. They picked up Zeller. They're not far off. The Pelicans' main key focus coming into this year, they got to find the right guy to replace Aaron Nelson on top of the training program. That's what it comes. Their training and health program, that is the major thing they need to do because the right guy fixes a lot of the ailments, the injuries that have been impacted the Pelicans. I don't expect him to come here and wave a magic wand, but he has to be able to do better than the last guy who was holding on to these guys but extra long and holding them with kid gloves and, treating them like a porcelain figurine, keeping them, it's just ridiculous. And even we knew that Stan Van Gundy spoke about it, how we got the most burn out of him under Stan Van Gundy. And Van Gundy said that you got to play Zion Williamson. Sometimes you got to play him and he'll play his way into shape. So a lot of this is not totally on these players. If it was, the Pelicans would have went about getting Aaron Nelson out of the way and trying to find somebody to replace him. So let's redirect. The article, it did bring some interesting points into fold, but the reality is, once again, this is a critical season. Critical season on deck? Hell yes, it's a critical season on deck because the expectation is the Pelicans have to get the right guy on top of the health program that will be able to help guys in injury situations to help them moving forward. Zion Williamson is healthy now. He hadn't officially, of course, he hadn't been cleared yet because the season over with, but we expected him coming around to the upcoming season to totally be free of restriction and able to play. BI the same way. So we're going to see much improved versions of these guys. And the fact that a lot of these other guys that have been involved, talk about Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, who was given a contract. I forgot to mention Herb's big deal. That was a smart move by the Pelicans to lock up. So a lot of the more productive core members of the team are back. Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, and all these other guys. I have to go through the entire roster. But what I'm saying is the most important move the Pelicans can make at this current juncture of time is to find the right guy to get on top of the health and performance staff. They got to find that guy. And then from that point forward, we can be able to fix and restructure what we need to do to approach the injury situation and whatever we got to do to make sure that our players see the court more than they did before. That is a task that we need to focus on. And that, like I said, that's one of the biggest moves the Pelicans need to make next, and that needs to be the mode of focus. So anyway, with that being said, that'll do it for this episode. You guys put in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel about this. I know you believe it's a critical season on deck. What do you think about some of the topics of discussion and comments that were brought up by Christian Clark of NOLA.com? So, like I said, very interesting, man. At the end of the day, we've been watching the Pelicans for a long time. If they nail that director of the health situation on top, the performance and health situation on top of the team, we can see a lot of great basketball in the city. You can see the Pelicans go from where they are currently to a top three team. Remember, last year the Pelicans were sitting up there at number two, up there in there before all the injuries started to mount, and then they fell off the cliff. They just couldn't keep up. So things have to change. The injuries came, and a lot of people can learn from this. Coach Willie needed to dig into his bench a little bit more and stop over relying on veteran players and all this kind of stuff. Have to improve and his adjustments about doing his adjustments a lot faster in real time. Understanding when the player has the hot hand and how to let him cook it, like we several times we've seen with Valanciunas last year. He just didn't take advantage of some of those games. So in the end, a lot of people got to learn stuff. There's a lot of improvement moving forward, but are the Pelicans ready to take that next step? Let's see who they get on top of that health staff, man. That'll be big. So with that being said, I'm getting on out of here. Y'all guys put it in the comment section below. Let me know how y'all feel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, and make the Pelican Post Game Report the #1 source for all your Pelican content. I'm Big Q. I'm going to holler at y'all on the next one, man. Go Pels.